Welcome to Frontline Voices, a podcast brought to you by Stanford University's Hoover Institution, where we explore leadership, service, and real-world solutions to some of our nation's most pressing issues. I'm your host, Iron Mike Stedman, a member of the inaugural class of Hoover Veteran Fellows and a Marine Corps veteran. What happens when a 26-year Army veteran trades the uniform for a microphone and finds healing in humor? That's exactly what we explore in today's conversation with Robin Phoenix Johnson, a fellow veteran and VFP alumni who developed a comedy-based mental health program that helps veterans and frontline professionals reframe stress and trauma through laughter. Robin shares her story of transitioning out of the military during the height of the pandemic, navigating identity shifts, and rediscovering her voice through stand-up comedy. Whether you're a veteran, a caregiver, or simply someone trying to stay afloat in today's chaotic world, Robin's story offers a refreshing human take on healing, purpose, and why we can't lose our sense of humor, especially when the stakes are high. As always, I hope you enjoyed today's show and look forward to hearing your feedback. Robin, thanks for making time to join Frontline Voices. We had a podcast scheduled originally a few weeks ago. I know you all, it's been a few weeks since you've seen us record, but I was just a bit under the weather. I wasn't myself, and so we had to reschedule. But it was important for me to make sure I got you on this platform to share your story for a couple reasons. Even before we just kind of went live, you and I were talking about pedigree and how certain places can feel intimidating because of beliefs we have about ourselves or where we come from and stuff, etc. And with this program, it's important for us to have, all voices represented, including those of Mustangs, which hold a special place in the heart of the United States military, which we're going to be talking about. And then also your work with humor and how it relates to kind of mental health and helping people navigate some tough challenges. So we got a lot to unpack here, and I'm just so happy you're here today.
Get into it. And I'm glad you're feeling better. You look great. Nice haircut.
Thank you. So Robin, please introduce yourself to our viewers today who are not familiar with you and the work that you do.
What? They don't know who I am? This is crazy. Hi, everyone. No, I'm Robin Phoenix Johnson. Phoenix is just kind of a nickname, by the way. It's not like a real name. But I am an Army veteran, part of the 4th cohort for the Hoover Veteran Fellowship program. More importantly, I'm a mom of 2 very busy kids that keep me running. So I'm basically an Uber driver, glorified Uber driver as a soccer mom.
But do you have a minivan?
I do. I have a Toyota Sienna XL. Yes, I am a loud and proud minivan. I call it my swagger wagon.
Okay.
If you've ever seen this Toyota swagger wagon commercial, like that it's hilarious. Just Google Toyota swagger wagon. It's actually what inspired me to buy the minivan. But the minivan's going away. This is the last year. I'm coming up on a milestone birthday this year, and I am going to buy myself a new vehicle. So it's the first time in a decade to get a new vehicle. So back to this. So my real passion, I left the Army after 26 years of service and found that my true passion is somewhere at the intersection of leadership and mental health and helping people navigate life with the use of humor. That humor is more than just entertainment, that it's also a superpower. And that's what I ultimately built my capstone about, and I will get into that later. But just felt like people talk about resiliency all the time, but it's not grit, it's wit that truly gets you through the tough times.
One thing I appreciate about Robin is, I was part of the inaugural cohort of the Veteran Fellowship program, and so I know my fellow cohort members, pretty intimately. We got to travel to the Republic of Georgia together, got to spend some time together and stuff, etc. But as the program has grown, it's hard for me to keep up with all the new cohort members, all the fellows over the years. But, I think at one of the, we call them the fly-ins, where we all kind of come together in DC, you were super social, you introduced yourself, and the Hoover team was like, you gotta talk to Robin, And so that's one of the reasons why I knew I had to get you on this podcast today too, because this also gives us opportunity to just kind of learn a little bit more about each other. I know I'm pretty visible. A lot of people assume they know what I'm doing, but I'm generally curious in the work that you've done with your capstone. So, but before we get into that, I do want to talk about your kind of background. Where were you born?
Well, I was born in Fort Lauderdale. Now, okay, so by the way, I consider myself to be a master at escape rooms because of my being from South Florida, we have escape rooms in like every corner. I mean, we call them rehab, but very similar. But I have to tell that joke, but I wasn't really raised in South Florida. So I grew up in Ohio and like on a farm or like in the country. So not not at all like a city, Miami, Dade, Broward County girl. But I do have a lot of family still there, and I go back to visit. So there's a special place in my heart for Florida. But I consider myself an Ohioan.
What made you join the military?
I didn't want to live in Ohio the rest of my life. I love that I was from a small town. I think it taught me a lot of great work ethic. It taught me that giving a darn mattered. That showing up mattered. Community mattered. Like I feel like that was a really good foundation, but I wanted to see more of the world. I didn't, I didn't come from a lot of money or affluence, so I felt like that was my best way to kind of travel, see the world, get an education, broaden my horizons, if you will.
And at what point did you decide to go to school and become an officer?
Oh, like right away. So I joined when I was 17, and my mom had to sign a waiver for me to go in at 17. And her condition of signing the waiver was that I would use the college benefit. What I didn't know is that I would do ROTC and become an officer. I mean, I knew I wanted to be something more than just a private. And actually, I was at E3 twice. Whole long story behind that. It's good for character building. So but I think I just always wanted to lead. I'm the oldest of 4 kids. I'm the oldest grandchild on both sides of the family. I'm the oldest of like all the cousins on both sides. So I've kind of always inherently had a leadership mindset, or the eldest child syndrome, if you will. My sisters would just say I'm bossy. I say I have leadership skills, but they would just say bossy.
Okay. And then where'd you go to school?
The Ohio State University.
That's right.
That's right. You can't see it, but it's behind me on my wall. Yeah.
Yeah. And how many years had you served before you made the decision? I know you said right away, but you didn't go right away, right? You spent some time on active duty before you went to Ohio State?
No, I was in the National Guard. So they have a simultaneous membership program where you're in the National Guard and you can go to college. So that's what I did. And I didn't go on active duty until I commissioned as an officer. So all my enlisted time was in the Guard. I never got to be a non-commissioned officer because I got busted from E4 to E3. So I had to repeat. And that held me back some. And then I just said, well, I'm going to be a lieutenant before I ever make that back again. So I just
Yeah. And so then you did 26 years. And then when did you transition?
2020. I know.
Oh, right in the middle of the pandemic.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it was terrible. It was so anticlimactic. It was terrible to get. I got my DD 214 emailed to me, and the person who sent it to me didn't even take the time to say thank you for your service. There was nothing in the email. It was just an attachment, and that was it. And I clicked it open, and there was my DD 214. No fanfare, nothing. 5 deployments, 26 years of my life, and it was like, next, see ya.
Yeah.
It was very I was a rough year.
Yeah, I got my DD 214 in 2015. It was like April or May of 2015, whatever. Freaking left the base the next day. I was already living off the base, but I remember grabbing my DD 214 actually. Then I remember leaving Camp Lejeune literally the next day. So it is anticlimactic, y'all, which is why I do think at times a lot of vets struggle when they transition because, you spend all this time kind of fighting for your country, doing a good fight, and then there's really no kind of grand applause. Maybe if you retire, you have a retirement ceremony or something like that.
Yeah,
but for the most part, it's like people are just kind of, not in COVID, people just kind of kick back into the civilian world.
Yeah, I always say that it was like an amicable divorce. And I felt like I was getting divorce papers when I got my DD 214. Like they were finalized. Like I was kind of done with the Army. It was done with me. Like we were just at a good place where we were just going to go our separate ways very nicely. And I still to this day call my retirement pay my alimony. Like just like as a joke.
Yeah, it was just time. It's just time. You're entering a new season of life, and it was time to transition out. How did you start to what was the origin stories of your kind of work with humor? Was it informed by this kind of transition and everything that was going on in that time?
No, I've been a consumer and lover of comedy for a long time. I remember when I was little, my mom was watching The Tonight Show, and she was just like laughing really hard. Her shoulders are shaking and like really belly laughing, and just she was just her face was so lit up. And remember even back then, I thought, wow, I never see my mom like this during the day. She's stressed. She's like, she's chasing the kids. She's working multiple jobs. Like I just didn't see that side of her. And then, but I did see that when like she was watching the Tonight Show. So then I decided that I was going to try to make her laugh and goof off and be funny. So I really started being funny like probably around 7 to intentionally to like kind of get her attention or her probably some validation, from my mom. I'm competing with 3 siblings for attention. So that was the start of it. And then I had that initially, but then it's like somewhere along the way I lost it. I lost my sense of humor, my funny bone atrophied. Like I don't know if it was my assignment in the Pentagon or where I was, it just sucked it out of my soul. But I just started being overly serious. Like I couldn't even laugh. So I wanted to reconnect and find that person when I retire. You know how you go through like a little bit of an identity crisis, like you're trying to like
Yep.
figure out who are you? Like I'm not Lieutenant Colonel Robin Johnson. Like who is this person? Like who apart from the uniform or the rank. So in that exploration time I remembered, yeah, you used to be funny. What happened to that girl? Where is she? I liked her. And so I started to explore comedy again, took a course through Armed Services Arts Partnership, which I highly recommend, asap.org if you haven't heard of it. They have like storytelling, comedy boot camp. And I just fell in love with comedy. Yeah.
And how did you make the connection between kind of comedy and healing?
Now that's a bigger jump. So first it was just like a hobby. I was just doing comedy for me, just a side hobby. Like somebody would do golf or maybe take martial arts or tennis. Like you just have something you do on the side for fun and escape, the day to day. That's all it was. And then it happened to be that I started helping to do some caregiving for my mother-in-law who was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And I used to try to make her laugh and joke around, and even like her larger like medical care team tried to make them laugh at appointments, and then I would make other patients around who were going through the same thing laugh. And the last thing that she said to me before she passed away was, "Thank you for making me laugh. You need to do this for more people." And I just felt like it was all of a sudden I had this like calling, like this charge to like a new mission statement. And I had been researching about it anyway, just in her situation. I was researching like Patch Adams and the science and all that behind it. And I joined this Association for Applied and Therapeutic Humor, AATH.org, which is behind me. And they were offering they offer a 3-year program where you can get your certification to be a certified humor professional. So that's somebody who is certified and trained to use humor in therapeutic settings. It doesn't make you a clinician. You can't treat patients, but you work in partnership with clinicians to deliver humor-based programming. So as part of that program, you have to do a pilot, or not pilot, like a capstone project, kind of like Hoover. You have to do a capstone project. So mine was, I'm going to create a humor-based therapy group for my local VA. So at the Ralph Johnson VA Center in Charleston, South Carolina, they were nice enough to let me just pilot it there. And I just kind of created something. And basically, the idea was, let's reframe the way we see our problems and stressors through the eyes of a comedian. Think like a comedian instead of like thinking through your normal lens. And it was a little rocky at first because I really didn't know what I was doing, but it grew into being the most well-attended group locally and getting a lot of great reviews and response from veterans and seeing their progress. And so now we're still doing it. Now it's several years in. And that's what I brought to Hoover because I wanted to do more than just my little local VA. I wanted to figure out how to scale it and help more veterans.
So that's your new purpose now, is using the power of comedy to help more veterans and help more people just kind of heal in general.
Yeah, and not just veterans. I've even like broadened it now because like there's such burnout and compassion fatigue in the healthcare industry. So helping just those at risk or overly stressed career fields. I mean, veterans is where I start, and that's where my heart is because that's where I come from. But there's lots of industries that's high stress, and so I'm really looking at nurses, doctors, for police, law enforcement, and so bringing that in is different. Like they get entertained and they get educated, and so it's a 2 for 1. Nobody wants to sit in a conference or training that's boring. But if you can have a stand-up comedian deliver like this really practical way, like to give you tools in your tool bag for like how to be more resilient, that's great. And it's also great for leadership. So I've also been opening up and teaching this at like for MBA programs because if there's a lot of leadership lessons from being a comedian, reading the room, thinking on your feet, being very present in the moment. Those skills are invaluable.
Yeah. I think it's funny too because I was having a conversation with some friends lately. I feel like there just feels this seriousness. I don't know if it's just because we're getting older now. Life is kind of starting to beat people up a little bit more. But I've seen, people that I've kind of grown up with kind of start to lose that spark and lose that twinkle, you know? And I'm just more the person, my personality. I'm like, listen, every day ain't a given. Every day I write in my journal and I say that I'm thankful for waking up to see another day. That's the first thing I write. And so like I do try to be a little bit more bubbly in personality. I'm a social person. Like I just kind of can't help myself. But I do notice a lot more people seem to be just wound kind of so tight. And I just want to be like, man, relax, smile some.
It's like a social battery. I mean, I feel like as I've aged, my social battery gets weaker. So like it used to be because I am an extrovert. I love being around people. Used to be I could go to an event, work a room, be around people, and I would leave there feeling energized. I can still do that and be happy and energetic, but I leave exhausted.
Right.
And I don't know if it's perimenopause, age, if it was an effect of COVID and becoming in that time, like not recovering from being isolated for that period of time, or that I'm so much on social media that my attention span and being present is such focused work. It takes a lot I have a little bit of ADHD, so it's a lot to stay focused for me. I mean, I'm like squirrel,
Yeah.
you know, so yeah. And so it's exhausting when you're concentrating, like, okay, I'm here. But God forbid somebody I know walks by, goes, oh, hey, Robin. And then I'm like, "Ugh," I've lost myself in that conversation.
Yeah. I had a chance to watch one of your TED Talks, right? And you mentioned this line that like laughter is the Heimlick maneuver for the brain. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So if you were choking right now on something, your body would know what to do. Like you would just expel the object. You would start to cough, and it's going to try to do whatever it can to clear the airway so that you can get oxygen. But if you couldn't do that, then you would give the international sign for choking. Somebody around you would give the Heimlich. If you're there alone in your studio, you'll lean over your chair, administer it to yourself. And so there's a protocol, there's a process. But we know that depression is um, like just negative thought patterns and cognitive distortions. We also know the number one cause of suicide is untreated depression. So essentially, your brain is choking, this is metaphorically, on these negative thoughts, these thought patterns that are just running rampant in your mind. And no one can see that you're choking. There's no international sign for you to give someone, and there's no Heimlich maneuver or protocol to address it. I mean, ask for help, go get therapy, but it's not like that rapid solution that you would have. And so my idea was that you can allow enough positivity or air into your cognitive processes to like convince you to not cause self-harm or take actions that were harmful to yourself. And so it was like a life-saving measure. I'm still working on this. I mean, that was the whole like premise of my work at Hoover. I'm still working on it. I'm still trying to get where I can work more with like MRIs and brain research. I just joined a group called the Neuroplasticity Network. So talking about neuroplasticity and your brain function. So that's still like fascinating to me. Like I just want to dive in deeper. And what was so great about the fellowship is I got to connect with people that are of like-minded and are researching some of this as well. And who are looking at the brain or are looking at humor as a superpower. I mean, they teach it at the GSB. I got to go and meet with folks over at the Medicine and Humanities Department at Stanford Medical School. So there's lots of alignment and people kind of exploring this space. I'm not the first one and I won't be the last. But what's unique about Hilarious, which is the program I built, is that it's more about it's cognitive behavioral theory, reframing your thoughts, which is done. That's not I didn't invent that, obviously. It's been around for a long time, but it's with a twist of funny. I mean, instead of just saying that you're going to say, oh, well, let's choose to look at this from another lens. No, let's look at it like you're Jim Gaffigan or if you were Dave Chappelle or Jerry Seinfeld. Well, how would they write material about this? And in doing so, you get a whole different relief from it. I love to share about one of my veterans I was working with. He was really upset with his wife. He is a visually impaired veteran. So his wife had driven him to the group and they were arguing when they came in. He's like, I don't feel very funny. I'm not going to participate in the group today. I said, oh no, we are absolutely going to write a joke about this. Turns out he just felt like his wife wasn't being empathetic to his situation living as a blind man. So we wrote a joke together and it was like, the joke went like this. My name is Melvin. I've been legally blind for 6 years. But this morning, my wife asked me if I'd seen her keys. Nope. Then she asked me, have you seen my glasses? Nope. Then she asked me, do I look fat in this dress? Yep. And just doing that joke made him laugh and you could feel it physically reduce the tension between the two of them.
Yeah.
So
you're more studied on the academic and the whole science behind this laughter stuff. So, but I want to ask you something. Okay. There's a group of people I've served with in the military. I have not seen them in person in probably 15 years, 10 years, whatever. But we have this habit of sending memes back and forth to each other online all day, every day. And one of the things I realized is it's a form of kind of even keeping us connected. And occasionally, we'll have these group threads where we'll kind of check in on each other. And I have found that, I'm very lucky. Okay. I get to deal with vets all day, every day. I get to see people all day, every day. I live in New York City, which is a very populated area. I had a veteran come in yesterday. We grabbed lunch or we grabbed breakfast. But I know a lot of my peers, they don't really have that. Some of them are very isolated. And they just, some of these group threads, they've just been like, hey, thank you so much. They appreciate that kind of constant contact we have with one another because, everybody's lifing, life is lifing, as we like to say. But I think there's something there with even why we do that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what we remember, the camaraderie, this discord, all that. It's the jokes, it's the motor pool banter. You can't tell me you can't find or you couldn't find a movie like MASH as a TV show, but or Band of Brothers. How many scenes are in those movies and TV shows where they're just joking with each other and giving each other a hard time? That's part of our culture in the military. And so I think it's really important. Also, we have a gallows, kind of a darker sense of humor in the military that a lot of other people wouldn't appreciate. So it feels safe when you can do that, because I don't know that I could send those same memes, which is a love language, by the way. I say that sending memes is a love language. I don't know I could send the same memes to my civilian friends that I send to my military friends. We're just a different breed. I went into one of the Marines that is a friend of mine, was participating in one of my groups. Unfortunately, he attempted to take his own life. He shot himself in the chin, and the bullet ricocheted off of his dental work and exited out his cheek. And I went into the hospital to visit him, and his wife said, look, don't feel sorry for him. He doesn't want any pity. He just wants you to make him laugh. And I was like, what? I was like, okay. That's what? And so I went, and I was like, hey, I was like, I'm going to need you to prove with your paperwork that you were a Marine because, you missed.
Yeah.
And he just started cracking up. And I was like, hey, remember when I told you that if you wanted to do comedy, you had to get headshots? It wasn't being literal, and it was just, something we could laugh at, but probably a lot of people would think that was super inappropriate. The other reason I love what we're doing with humor is also the better narrative. that was another passion, was like the veteran narrative was sad, depressing. It was like we're all broken, we're all PTSD, we're all homeless, we're struggling. And it's like, that is not the narrative, the only narrative. That's not the only stories we have. I can tell you some stories of hardship, and I was deployed 5 times, and there's certainly some stories that aren't great stories to share. But I have hundreds of funny, great stories of my time in the service. And how come those never get told? So comedy was a platform for me to tell the other side and to make sure America, like that signal divide, was less, because they knew both aspects of our story of service.
So, were you intimidated to apply to the Hoover Institution to work on comedy?
Oh, I sure was. I mean, you could say, well, I thought they'd think I was a joke. Ha ha ha. Right. Well, I mean, one, because the topic isn't serious. I'm not addressing, foreign policy or geopolitical, or like, I'm not addressing some big 100-pound elephant in the room. I'm addressing an important topic, which is our veteran mental health. And finding innovation in that. And I'm glad and I'm very grateful that they saw that. Um, but also, I mean, I didn't feel I was the pedigree. I mean, I went to a state school, went to Ohio State, the Ohio State University. I did not go to an academy. My master's degree was, um, you know, at night when I was, in the Army. So not from like anything prestigious. And I wasn't sure. I really didn't know what they were looking for, but I honestly didn't think I had much of a chance. But I said, well, if I don't apply, I definitely don't have a chance. So let me just try and see.
And that was your thought process going into the program. And now, how has it shifted on the other side?
Oh gosh. I think the Hoover Institution does a great job of looking at the total person and the viability of their project and its importance and tie into like national like security imperatives. Like, and this, even though it's mental health and that's important, which it ultimately ties back to an all volunteer force, which is so important to our national security. So I really, not to say I didn't think they were, I now I'm like, I'm telling all these people to apply. I just was speaking with somebody who was an enlisted, it was a female, prior Navy enlisted. And I was like, no, absolutely apply. Like, she told me what her capstone would be, and she was very articulate. And I was like, you should. Don't let it scare you. You got this. And then, if you want me to look it over, I'll look it over.
Yeah, and what I tell people is it's less about just national security stuff, but it's just like people, you know, there's hard problems. There's a lot of hard problems out there. We need creative people to come up with solutions to these problems, and a lot of times they're happening in our own backyard. Whether it's veteran mental health, whether it's housing insecurity, whether it's the future of work, right? There's a lot of different challenges that are taking place because the world is just changing so rapidly, and I love that the Hoover Institution is creating a safe space for veterans to address these issues. Now, we've got people that are probably tuning in that are either thinking of applying or on the fence about applying. What words of encouragement would you give them?
I have this little saying. Actually, it's right here. It's kind of dirty, but it says, "You did not wake up to be mediocre." It's one of my favorite sayings, and I think my encouragement would be, you did not wake up to be mediocre. You only get one life, and tomorrow's not promised. Dream big. Go for the hard things. Put yourself out there. What do you have to lose? And then I would also say, also, if you're going to do this, and I'm going to just be direct. If you're going to do this, if you're going to take up a spot in a very coveted fellowship, come prepared to work. This isn't to get something on your resume. This isn't to look good on paper. You should be driving to make a change and to make an impact and do the work and show up and participate and be part of the team of your cohort. I was really fortunate to have a really good cohort, but I just I guess I just would not be happy if somebody came in and like, oh, I'm just here to like get a check block on my resume. No, that's not what this is.
Well, Robin, I appreciate you making time to chat with me today. You're doing important work. Thank you for rescheduling, because again, this is the second time me and Robin had to do this call because I was under the weather. But we appreciate you. And for everyone that's tuning in, I think by the time this interview comes out, there'll still be about a week and a half left to apply to the fellowship. So make sure you head over to hoover.org/VFP and apply. Look forward to seeing you all in the program, and good luck.